Greetings, YouTubians, and welcome back to Wayne's Sharp World, where today we are going to be taking a look at the newly released Ferrum Forge Stinger. Before I go any farther in this knife, I want to thank you guys for tuning in today, taking a look at this episode. If you like what you see, please do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button and follow along so you can stay up to date with all of my content and continue to help me grow this channel. Now, let's go over some specs on this knife. We have an overall length of 7.25 inches, blade length at 3.25 inches, cutting edge at 2.875, blade width at 1 inch, blade thickness at 0.12 inches. Blade material on this one is Nitro V. This is a new one to the game. You don't see it in a whole lot yet, but I have a feeling you may hear probably pretty soon. Usually when a blade material such as a steel like this hits the market, it's usually used over and over. So I think you're going to be seeing more of this. There seems to be some pretty positive reviews about it. Have a blade style of a drop point with a flat grind and stone wash finish. Handle length at 4.125, handle width at 1 inch, handle thickness at 0.4 inches. G10 handles, a total weight of 2.54 ounces. Pocket clip is right hand only tip up carry with a very nice pocket clip. Flipper deployment and a total price of $90. So not too bad at all for what you're getting here. And we're going to go over all that here in just a second. First, let's do some size comparisons. We'll start off with some Benchmade Hall of Famers. The Benchmade Bug Out and the Benchmade 940. As you can see, they're pretty similar to both of those two. A little shorter than both of them. Obviously, a little less blade length, but an overall length not too far off. And let's follow that up with another Made in America sandwich of the TRM Atom and the ZT-0562CF. Two of my favorite knives. And as you can see, definitely a little bigger for both of them, and just overall beef and length. And let's do one more here. I'm feeling like doing a lot of size comparisons today because those are always fun. We got the Spyderco Shaman, as well as the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. If you guys like these scales on this PM2 and Shaman, I got these at Sharp Dress Knives. He makes some of the best aftermarket scales in the knife industry, knife world, whatever you want to call it. He's out there. Look him up on Instagram. He also has a website, sharpdressknives.com. Definitely check him out. He's got phenomenal products for a pretty good spread of knives. But as you can see there, it is also a bit shorter than both of them. So there are some size comparisons for you, and let's get into a little deeper on this knife. Let's start with the blade as usual, and I really like this one. It's a nice, sleek drop point. Not too thick, not too thin at the tip. Not a super beefy tip, but not exactly a dainty tip either. Just a really nice EDC blade. Perfect centering on the knife, as you can see. Just close that up very easily there, and as you can see, it's pretty much perfect. I mean, it may be just a smidgen to the clip side, but that doesn't even bother me, and I'm a little picky about that, so no problem there. As always, I'll probably say this every time I review a Ferrum Forge knife. I just love the blade choil they have here. It always is always just a great thing. It makes their ergos what they are. Pretty good jimping up here. Kind of wish there was just a tad bigger space in between the jimping so it'd be a little more bitey on my fingers, grip it a little more. But not too bad. You feel it, and I think it would be effective in daily use. So overall, the blade is very, very attractive and very minimal blade branding, which is always a fantastic thing. All you have is the blade steel. Not even the Ferrum Forge logo, which I wouldn't be too upset if that was on here because I really like their logo. It's actually on the pivot, though. We'll get to that in a second, so I can see why it's not on the blade. But very nice minimal branding, small little blade steel logo, placed perfectly, so props to them on that. And then this fuller here, I was really hoping that I could use this fuller to deploy it, like with a Spidey flick or something, but I just can't do it, and I'm not even going to try because I'll look like I'll look like a complete moron. So I'm just not going to do that. I'm sure some of you guys out there will probably be able to do it because the detent is very nice on this knife, but I can't get it. That's actually longer than my fingernails usually are, so so there's no real digging in with my nails for me, and the middle finger, nothing works. I can't do it. Not to say that you can't, but I can't. So there's that. Handles and ergos on this guy are very nice. They're Ferrum forged. I don't think I've ever had a Ferrum forged knife where I didn't like the ergos. And granted, I haven't had all of them, but I'd probably say 4 or 5 Ferrum forges, and the ergos are always very similar to this. They're notorious for the finger choil. I've also said this before, I'm about to say, but they're right up there. They're right below Vox for me as one of the best designers of friendly ergonomics on a knife. They're just good at it, and when you're good at it, that's not something you really lose or get away from. So that's just part of the Ferrum Forge game. There's a really nice medium grit texture on the G10. Not too strong, not slippery. Kind of reminds me of the original Paramilitary 2 G10, maybe a little less grippier than that, which is totally fine for me for EDC tasks. It'll definitely stand up to whatever you're going to throw at it, most likely. The Ferrum Forge pivot logo on this guy now. A lot of people really like it, and I don't have anything against it. I don't mind it. I don't think it looks particularly fabulous, but I do like the way they put it on the pivot, call it pivot nut or pivot whatever, the pivot cap that the screw goes into there. It makes it a non-spinning pivot, which is really nice. It makes it a lot easier to disassemble, at least for that part of the disassembly. It's nice. But yeah, it's just kind of, it's I don't think it's as great as I've heard other people give it credit, but I think it's good. I think it's unique, and it definitely goes well on the knife. It doesn't stick out. It's not an eyesore. It's not something that you look at it and you're like, oh God, this knife would be perfect if it just didn't have that. But it looks fine. No real problem there. Very nice lockup on the liner lock there, so you're good to go there. The disassembly and reassembly on this guy, I'm going to point this out. It's not usually something I point out because there's usually not a big problem, but with this there was. But again, it's one of those things, once you know it, it's not that big of a deal. But when you take these scales off, the liners here have separate screws that you can't see going into the backspacer. There's one like right here, and then there's one I think like back here, or it's along the backspacer, somewhere within the backspacer, hidden screws under the actual G10 scales, which I actually really like because it makes the outside look a lot cleaner. Just a really nice aesthetics and presentation on the outside of the knife, but there are a few more screws under there. And what I found is when I took this apart, out of the box, the blade centering was perfect. Then I disassembled it, took a look at it. Everything was good. Really clean assembly, very nicely done. But when I went to put it back together, the inner screws that went into the backspacer, I tightened them too tight, apparently. And when I shut the blade was way off center to actually the show side, which was really weird. At first, I thought maybe I screwed up with the bearings and put the bearings in wrong, or they were caught somewhere. But before I even took that off, I took the scale back off and I just tightened or loosened these 2 screws back here. And when I loosened these 2 screws, just made them flush with the surface of the liner, it fixed the problem. So if you do get one of these and you go to reassemble it and your blade's way off center, check that first, because it's always less hassle than having to deal with the pivot and the bearings and all that stuff up there. But it was just those 2 screws. So when you go to reassemble it, don't tighten those screws back here too tight, or your blade will be off center considerably, like enough to where you're like, oh God, it's terrible. So, but it's an easy fix and no problem after that. There's also really nice skeletonized liners in there for weight reduction. So that's very good. Always like to see that. And this is just a nice knife overall for weight. It's not heavy, like I said, 2.54 inches. Perfect for EDC. So that's all good to go there. And the action on this guy is just fantastic. Especially it kind of drop shut. I wouldn't, drop shut with a little shake. So very good there. Detent is dialed down. It's a pretty light blade, so it doesn't take a whole lot to pop it out. And it just, it goes in like butter. This is another knife where the small flipper tab, it doesn't, there's no problems. I don't have this problem. It's ironic because just a couple days ago, I reviewed the Civivi Odium, which is a Ferrum Forge design, and I had a problem with that area up here. You don't have it on this because I just feel like that it's a smaller area up here. You don't have to deal with it as much. It's not as pronounced as the area on the Odium was, and it's just not an issue on this knife. So it's nice to know in case anyone was wondering that. No issues on deployment for me whatsoever. Very nice deployment, very snappy, very just kind of makes that satisfying, that thwack. Very nice. And another thing I didn't point out when I was talking about the blade, Ferrum Forge, they are really good at making sure their edges have a little extra sparkle. I don't want to call this mirror. It's definitely not a mirror edge, but it definitely is also a lot more reflective than any other production knife I think I've ever bought. Granted, it's a thin edge too, so it's you know, it's not too flashy or anything too amazing, but it's just cool that I do notice it, and it's considerably different from a lot of the other knives that I get. So that's just cool. I don't know if that's something that they do on purpose extra, or if it just happened to be a result of maybe just a Nitro V. Maybe that's a Nitro V thing. Who knows? As they sharpen it, maybe it does have a little more reflective edge, but it looks really good. Has that extra little sparkle. But no, overall thoughts on this guy are good. They're really good at $90. Oh, and the pocket clip. Oh my God, I almost forgot about this pocket clip. It's a perfect pocket clip. I'm calling out perfect pocket clips from now on. Every time I see one with recessed screws, recessed clip all together, nice ramp so you can slide through any pants. And this is also a little smaller too. I really like that. Sometimes pocket clips, I love ProTech, but one of my knocks on ProTech is some of their pocket clips are just way too long. But this is the perfect size pocket clip for this knife. It's not a hot spot at all, not one bit, not for a second, anywhere. Again, it's one of those things to where I kind of feel the pocket clip, but it is not a hot spot. So I like this a lot. And for $90, you get a lot of knife. You get a lot of knife in a very attractive design. I would almost call this a gentleman's folder. I know it's a little aggressive in the looks, but at the same time, it just, especially like this, I mean, look at that. You could definitely throw that in slacks, and it would fit the roll pretty well. Flip it out. It's not not too intimidating or aggressive. The blade, I wouldn't say it's stabby, but it has a nice little it looks like a knife. It looks like a knife, and we'll just leave it at that. But I think it would make a decent gentleman's folder, personally. So, what do you guys think? Do you think it's a gentleman's folder? Let me know. But there it is. That's the Ferrum Forge Stinger. Definitely worth the $90. If you guys are interested in it, I would say go for it. Hop on it. This is a really good knife. Probably one that's going to hang in the collection for a little while. So, that's all I got for today. You guys take care. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you soon with another review. Bye.